How are you guys doing? Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Live at the Coliseum. Yosuke rises from the dead to battle in a cage match with Andre the Giant in WrestleMania 87. How are you guys doing, really? Have you guys caught on that there's no tour portion this week? At least not for Queen. I've been trying to think of what my Passover sacrifice was going to be this year. I mean, I kind of already did one. That was in private, like a week or so ago. I was trying to think of what is my idolatry that I need to uproot and burn. I'm not sure if it's quite as severe as it used to be, but definitely used to be guns. Not like I, you know, physically worshipped weapons or anything, but just like looking at this thing and thinking like this has some kind of power at all whatsoever. When the riots were going on, I was trying to do some repairs, and there was a mistake that I made, and that point, I mean, I didn't really put it together at the time, at least not blatantly obvious of like how bad it was, but my feeling when that occurred was like, oh God, no, I'm doomed. I'm certainly doomed. I'm gonna die. I'm certainly gonna die. What am I gonna do? The zombie hordes are gonna I'm gonna be overrun by the zombie hordes. I was absolutely cursed. I was a cursed human being. Absolutely cursed. This week, it's funny. I noticed as I've been learning more, I noticed that like all the holidays for the church are all they all kind of coincide with Jewish holidays, like Palm Sunday, that Shabbat. You know, they they uh, they wanted to do something like Shabbat Hagadol, the great Shabbat, the the last Sabbath before Pesach, before the Passover. It's called Shabbat Hagadol because the miracle of the Jews leaving Egypt wasn't on Pesach, where the Jews sacrificed the Egyptians' god, false god, their idol, the sheep or the goat. The miracle was on the Shabbat before Pesach, 4 days before, because God commanded them to select a sheep or a goat, which was one of the Egyptian gods that they worshipped, to tie it to their bed so it would bleat and scream for 4 days, so the Egyptians would know, like everywhere, all throughout the land of Egypt, millions of Jews had sheep tied up in their houses, and the Egyptians knew there was, something going on, and God told Moses to tell him, when the Egyptians ask you what's going on, you have to tell them, our God has commanded us to tie up your false god, and in 4 days we're going to slaughter it, and we're going to burn it, we're going to roast it over fire, and we're going to eat it. And the miracle was that they even considered doing it at all, let alone had the faith and trust and chizuk, the strength to go through with it. Just insane. I mean, there were slaves in Egypt. They had absolutely no power whatsoever. They've been morally and physically beat down and debased for a couple hundred years. I think it's safe to say the real horrible slavery, like backbreaking and just like brutal, senseless, like horrible treatment that the Egyptians made or put them through, which included a lot of just horrible stuff. I think that was for like somewhere around 100 years, give or take. I can't recall the exact number though. But they were slaves, and they were able to somehow put their faith in God and muster up the strength to do God's command. Then after the first day, the real miracle was that the Egyptians could not respond. Like when the Jews told them, our God has commanded us to take your false god, your idol, tie it up to the bed, and then slaughter it in 4 days. The Egyptians were just like, huh, okay. And then, like the next day, they'd be like, what are you doing with our God over there? What are you doing? And the Jews would say the same thing. And like each day, the Egyptians just cared like less and less. Rabbi Reuben says in the name of one of the recent Jewish sages that at the end of the 4 days, the Egyptians got used to seeing their false gods being mocked and destroyed and slaughtered, and all of a sudden, this thing that they put all their faith and their trust into also was just like, yeah, whatever. It's not real. It's just a sheep or a goat or a man. But the more you learn, the more that you realize that and just learn outright that all the almost all the holidays and the way that Muslims and Christians practice their religion is all stolen from the Jews. Like I was saying, Palm Sunday coincides with the last Shabbat before Pesach, and Easter is their twisted, distorted version of Passover, or it's more like a gross. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if some celebrate both or what. I don't know. Really weird. I was, once I learned about like the idolatry behind falsianity in the New Testament, I always thought that Easter was in the wrong place. Easter should be in the winter, because the sun goes down, and after 3 days he is risen at the solstice. And it's just all so weird. How anyone can do it if they take any time to actually read the first part of the book. I guess this is public. Everyone mentioned earlier, or recently, that the way that the Muslims pray, they took from the Jews, like getting down on all fours and bowing on the floor. That's the way the Jews used to pray all the time. But once the Muslims stole it, they stopped doing it. And of course, fasting. The Muslims try to be more righteous than they need to be, and in the process, they become Rishaim, become wicked people, which is a trap for all of us that the Satan lays. But Muslims try to fast for 40 days. It's kind of ridiculous. Same with women's modesty. Like, a lot of their dudes aren't modest, but they put their women, like, just to clarify the other, I was kind of being hyperbolic about put wearing a woman wearing a bed sheet and poking holes in it. That's going a bit extreme. But with some things, a person has to go the extreme just to get to be able to find their way back to the middle, according to God, not according to people. Yeah, it's so weird. feel like I'm in no man's land a lot of times. I know I've been saying that for like the last year and a half or 2 years, something like that. At least 2 years, I guess. No man's land. That's all for a reason, though. Once a person finally wakes up enough, if we aren't uncomfortable in our current spot, we'll just stay in it and stagnate. And we won't try to get anywhere better. Definitely not where we all should be. The real holidays are weird for me because I can't observe them. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to because I'm not a fool. A person can do whatever they want to. Whether it's good or not, it's a whole nother thing. But I mean, since we're talking about me being a fool, I don't. That's how I felt at the end of last stream. It's just like, oh, moron, why do I do these? But I have to. I just beg God for the help to get through it and have something worthwhile come out. But the other day I was reading the Berkevot 3:18. Rabbi Eliezer Hisma said, the laws of the mixed bird offerings and the key to the calculation of menstruation days, these are the body of the halakha. And this last line, I really screwed it up. I was wondering why it was like this translation said one thing, and the Bartner commentary was, they're usually slightly different wordings on the commentary, but it didn't make any sense. The calculations of the equinoxes in the Gematria are the deserts of wisdom. And the Bartner commentary says condiments of wisdom, like the things people eat at the end of a meal. I was thinking about that. I was like, somewhere I saw the word desert, and I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like I was looking at something else somewhere and saw the word desert. I was like, desert. I'm still not sure how to spell which is which, other than I think right now dessert is spelled with two S's, maybe, because that's what this says. And the calculation of the equinoxes and gematria are the desserts of wisdom. Things that people like to hear. Or like condiments, like things that people like, I guess. That's what Bartner says. Just like the condiments that people are accustomed to eat at the meal for dessert in the manner of a treat. God really blinded me to this one because It says right here in the commentary dessert, but but in the verse of the Mishnah, I for some reason pronounce it as desert. I'm a fool. Well, I'm not so much as a fool to go against God. At least not if I can help it. But a person has free choice. Like Rabbi Akiva says in Perkei 3:15, everything is foreseen, yet freedom of choice is granted, and the world is judged with goodness, and everything is in accordance with the preponderance of works. God knows the outcome of every possible choice, not just what choice we make. Every possible choice. He knows all of them, and he not just knows every choice that we could make, but he knows the choice that we will make. And still, we are free to choose. His knowing has no impact on our decision. Bartner says everything that a man does in the innermost rooms is revealed in front of him, in front of God. Free will is given into the hand of man to do good and evil, as is written in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 15. See, I have given it in front of you today, life and prosperity, death and adversity. And with goodness the world is judged with the attribute of mercy. And nonetheless, not everyone is equal in this trait, since all is in accordance to the majority of the deed. One who does many good deeds is given much mercy, and one who does few good deeds is given a little mercy. All is in accordance to the majority of the deed. According to what a person repeats and is constant in the doing of good, his reward will be multiplied. As one who distributes 100 gold coins to charity, giving out 1 gold coin at a time is not similar to one who gives them out all at one time. And the variant the Rambam has is all is in accordance to the majority of the deed and not as per the deed. That's one thing the Rambam says. If a person is stingy, to break their bad character trait of stinginess, they should give a little, a lot, over and over again, even though it doesn't really impact a person in a real way. Like giving $1 to 100 people is not really going to benefit the 100 people that much. But it'll certainly benefit the person that gives, because it will slowly break them of their stinginess. And it applies to more than just money. It applies to compliments or well, that's the only other one I can think of right offhand. Compliments are free. But a lot of people don't like to spend them. I really don't like to spend them either. There are certain times where you got to. Really, also, I like even less. I like getting compliments because I don't know. It always just made me feel uncomfortable. I don't know why. Like there's nothing that really, I mean, at least 99% of the time, the things people compliment other people for, there's no reason. Like all the stuff people compliment people for is either, stuff that no one should ever compliment anyone for ever because they're sins and disgusting, or they're just gifts from God, which, maybe if a person is like, you know, that's God. God is awesome because he gave you that, or made you this way, or whatever. Such is the custom of people. Gotta get used to living in the world. Still there. Did you guys pick out your sacrifice this 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 year? Have you slaughtered it? Yeah, that's what I've been talking about. Is like even on all the or not all, but even out of a lot of the things that non-Jews are forbidden from observing, we can still learn very valuable lessons to apply to our life. Maybe if we really toil and work hard, we can understand the deeper meaning behind some of them to the point where we get motivated to do more than just be a goy. Maybe as well. What if we lie to ourselves and if we, you know, if we just steal from the gifts that God gave the Jews and lie to ourselves? That's certainly not good. Not what God wants. But a person has freedom of choice. That's really the only freedom that there is. Is freedom of choice. We are free to choose life or death, the blessing or the curse. I forget what the names of the two mountains that each half of the tribes stood on in, I think it's Parashat Bechukotai or Kitavo, I can't remember. Half the tribes stood on one mountain and the other half stood on the other mountain. And when Moshe would, maybe all the Levi, I can't remember, but when the blessings were recited, one half of the tribes would all stand on one mountain and say Amen. And then when the curses were recited, the other half of the tribes would be on the other side, and they would all say Amen. And they meant every word of it. Oh, last week's Torah portion. almost forgot. The first thing that stood out to me was last week's Torah portion was Parashat Tzav, I think anyway. Yeah, Tzav, TZAV. Leviticus chapters 6 through 8, 36. I think it's the whole of chapter 6, 7, and 8. One of the first things that stood out was the out of the meal offerings in chapter 6, verse 10, Leviticus. It shall not be baked leavened. I have presented it as their share for my fire offerings. It is most holy, like the sin offering and like the guilt offering. And the commentary in the Chumash by Abarbanel says, it shall not be baked leavened. Abarbanel explains why the Kohanim may not eat their own share, or may not let their own share become leavened. The next phrase in our verse states, I have presented it as their share for my fire offerings, which implies that a Kohen who eats the meal offering is like the altar, which provides atonement when offerings go up in smoke. Therefore, when Kohanim eat their part of the meal offering, they should maintain the restrictions of the altar itself, just as leavened flour may not be consumed by the altar, so too it may not be consumed by the Kohanim. And it says, see Leviticus chapter 2, verse 11, for the laws of the altar, or, for that leavening is not to be consumed on the altar, placed on the altar to be brought up in smoke. But I thought that was just amazing. The Kohen, like it says, just like the altar provides atonement for the sinner that is bringing the offering, so too does the Kohanim, when they eat their share of the meal offering. Their physical act of eating it provides atonement for the sinner. Just amazing. So awesome. Like Rabbi Reuben mentioned in last week's Stump the Rabbi, I think it's 159. A lot of Christians think that just because there's no temple, the Jews have like no purpose in the world, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Like, imagine the truth, and that statement is the complete opposite on the other side of the world. Is that the only reason that the world exists is for the Jews? No, I really didn't like hearing that at first. But too bad, buddy. I mean, we live here too. And we get to enjoy the fruits of our labor. And God wants God wants everyone to do teshuvah. But like he says in the Torah, the Jews are his firstborn. They got the birthright. because no one else wanted it. That's why. All the other nations said, "No, we're not going to do that unless we can see it. Tell us what's in there first. We don't like that. We don't like the sound of that deal. That's too many laws. 613. That's way too many. We don't even like 7. We want one law. I do what I want. I'm a free man, and you are. We're all free to choose. We choose to follow our desires and see where that leads us. Or we can choose to serve God to the best of our ability. And the Torah makes it plainly clear. You can either follow it and live and have a good life, or you could die and suffer both in this world and forever. It's pretty simple, obvious. God made it really easy for everybody that has eyes and ears. Right? Is not a zombie, so polluted by their own sins that they can't rectify what they're seeing and hearing. I know it's not always an easy thing to come to grips with, or certainly not a slow or not a quick process. But one thing is very, very certain. It's just brutally slow if you drag your feet and you don't do anything. And you just constantly make excuses for, oh, boo, I can't do this, or this is too hard, or wah, I don't want to. God doesn't like whiners. I mean, not that we aren't all whiners, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try not to be such complainers. At least to improve occasionally. And he really doesn't like when we shift blame, or we don't take responsibility for our own actions. That's really the first real lesson of Musar in the Torah. In Parashat Bereshit in Genesis. After everyone screwed up, Adam, Chava, and the Nakash, the snake, they all I mean, I'm not sure if the snake sinned, but he must have done something. I mean, it's obviously wrong because he got cursed. Starts to crawl upon his belly, and everything he eats tastes like sand. I think I'm pretty sure that God was expecting more from us, or from people, from Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, that they would, someone do teshuvah. What are you doing out there? Come on, man. I see what you're doing. I saw before I was, made it clear to you that I was here watching. I know what's in your heart. I made it. I made you. Why can't you just why can't you just stop blaming other people? Take some responsibility and commit to doing a better job and doing whatever you can to rectify the damage. It's not always possibly, not always possible to do completely. But we have to at least make some kind of effort. I can't remember all of the kinds of offerings that there are. There's a bunch, but I think I wrote down most of them. Mincha is the meal offering. The sin offering is the chatat. And then the interesting thing, there's the sin offering, and then there's the guilt offering. I can't remember what the guilt offering is called though. But the sin offering isn't for like what most people think of as sins. The het, that kind of sin is an accidental sin. That's what the sin offering comes to atone for, is an accidental sin, a sin for a transgression that someone was unaware they made, and then it became known to them. That's the phrase the Torah uses. Then it became known to them. Like, eating live oysters or various other live creatures or torturing animals. And then I learned it was a sin. And, oh, God, have mercy on me. Well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm sorry. Or, wasting seed, which is, I don't know if infinitely worse is an accurate term, but it's a lot worse than eating a live oyster. And the only reason people do the things that they do, I used to do, without any concern, was we don't think about the way of the world. Like what, we don't really think about much of anything other than our desires. But if we look at the world with an intent to understand what it is we see and what's going on, obviously something created everything. Because when you look at the intricacy of everything, it is just beyond belief. There's absolutely no way that it could just be from some random occurrence. No matter how long a time frame a person tries to stretch out, there's no feasible possible way. I mean, you could literally have infinity, and our world that we see with all its miracles and wonders would never come into being. Not ever. Not ever. One of the most fundamental fundamental missing pieces, as in the first few lines of the book of Genesis in Bereshit. Without God creating the first small, tiny little handful of particles of creation, there can be nothing else, not anything other than God. That's it. Without that, doesn't matter how many millions of years, or trillions, or quadrillions, or whatever, 7 billion, million, quadrillion, whatever. It's still this black empty space and nothingness. You don't even have a mud puddle to start with for, proteins to do whatever that people say that they do to make up some kind of nonsense that, how life came from amino acids or steel nonsense. Because without Bereshit, bara Elohim, et Shemayim ve'et haaretz. Without, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There is absolutely nothing at all. Now, what most people think is like what they see. The heavens is the sky and the stars and everything outside the world, and then the earth is like the dirt and everything on it. And that's not what that is, because neither of those things was created until like days later. I mean, there wasn't even the sun yet. I mean, there wasn't even the Or Haganuz, or I guess what it's called, the light that's not like visible light. There wasn't even that yet. It was just et Shemayim ve'et haaretz. The sages say the word et, which, another key to unlocking the truth is that you look at any of the translations from Hebrew of the New Testament or the Old Testament from a Christian perspective, or from any of the heretics, pretty much all of them will say that et is an untranslated or unknown Hebrew word with like no known root, which is false. They don't have the tradition from Moses, from God's mouth. They have, the dot of their own corrupt mind. Et is like everything. That's what Rabbi Reuben says. Is that et means Aleph Taf. That's another interesting thing, is that it also is sign. Oat. Aleph Taf is also the oat. But in this verse in Bereshit 1:1, it's et Aleph Taf is it means everything, like all encompassing everything about whatever the following word is. It's like all about whatever that is. And so it's like all the heavens and all the earth. But none of that stuff was created yet. So what is all that stuff? What is all the et? Or the, what is it? It's not stars. It's not planets. It's not dirt. It's not gas. It's not heavy metals or plutonium or anything. That's none of that stuff. That's like the fundamental building blocks of everything. Smaller particles than anything that science has scaled down to yet. It was only later, once God started forming everything, then it becomes like the upper and lower waters and the land and the sun and the moon and the stars and all that stuff. And then people and animals. No, it's animals then people. That's right. God created man last. Otherwise, if it was created any earlier, he might think it was special. That's why the sages say that's why Adam was created after everything else. If God created him, not last, basically, he would have had even more arrogance and pride than we already do, which is hard to believe. Hard to believe such a thing is even possible. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. But I think my favorite offering, all right, I shouldn't say that. One offering that I learned about last week that I like is the Thanksgiving offering, the Korban Todah. It says it's listed in Leviticus 7, verses 14 and 15. From it he shall offer one from each kind of offering, a portion to Hashem. It shall belong to the Kohen who throws the blood of the peace offering, and the flesh of his feast thanksgiving offering must be eaten on the day of its offering. He shall not leave any of it until morning. And the commentary says there were 4 types of loaves that were brought with the animal sacrifice of the Thanksgiving offering. Unleavened loaves mixed with oil, unleavened wafers smeared with oil, loaves of scalded fine flour mixed with oil, and loaves of leavened bread. And I think like we learned from that verse earlier in Leviticus 6:10, the Kohanim don't. I don't think they eat the leavened bread. At least not of the offerings. They get all the unleavened one. Well, let's read so we don't screw it up. One from each of an offering, one of each kinds of 4 loaves are given to the Kohanim, and the rest is eaten by its owner and his guests. As for the animal, its service is identical to that of the ordinary peace offerings in chapter 7, verses 28 through 34. Thus, part of it is burned on the altar, and part goes to the Kohanim, and the rest goes to its owner. And that's Rashi's commentary. And the sages ask, why isn't the Todah eaten for 2 days and a night like all the other peace offerings? Because you have to, when they brought the peace offering or the Todah offering, they would have to eat it all in one night. A Todah comes to thank God for a miracle. We are surrounded by miracles all day long. As we say in our prayers, we thank God for your miracles that that are with us every day. Thus, when we bring a Todah, it is only because we happen to become aware of one miracle while we remain oblivious to all the others. Therefore, Todah may be eaten only for one day. Tomorrow there will be other miracles for which to be grateful. And that's from commentary from Imre Emet. Rabbi Reuben is Sumpter Rabbi Lecture last week, number 159. He gives it over really amazingly with a lot more commentary than I've got. He says it's why the reason the sages say the reason why it had to be a day was not just what the Imre Emet lists in the commentary in the Chumash on that verse 714, but he says it had to be such a short time, so he was forced to bring like every single person that he knew to make the trip to Jerusalem and go to the temple, to the Bet HaMikdash, and make the sacrifice. And during the journey, like all the people that he would recruit to bring along to eat the offering, they would all ask him, like, why are you going to Jerusalem to sacrifice, to make this offering? And he would tell them about whatever miracle that happened to him, and it would be a huge glorification of God's name, and everyone would get a lot of faith and confidence and strength in their servitude of God by hearing the story of the miracle and seeing some crazy guy that was just really into praising God's name. God doesn't need us to do any of this. I mean, it says there's certain language in the Torah that a lot of people stumble over and become doomed from, but that's only because a person doesn't learn with commentary from the Jewish sages. If we learn with the tradition that was taught by them, from them, then everything is at least clear enough to see the truth and to know that there's only one option. There's only one truth. God doesn't need our sacrifices, our prayers, doesn't need to fight, doesn't need us to fight to defend him or explain to people. Like, he doesn't need us at all. We have to do it for ourselves and for other people, because that's the only way that there's ever any good in the world. The sages say one of the ultimate ways of glorifying God's name is witnessing when God rewards the righteous and punishes the wicked, and instills great fear in people, to fear his word and follow it. I know most people don't like fear, at least, not in that respect. Like Rabbi Reuben says, like fear and like everything else. They'll watch scary movies and they'll terrify themselves, and they'll watch horrible garbage on the news, and delve into conspiracy theories and torment and torture their own mind for their entire life. Some people. But when it comes to someone mentioning that we should fear God, all of a sudden they shrink away. No, it can't be. That's not right. Why would God want that? Or that's evil. If people don't fear God, they become absolute degenerate monsters. And sometimes it's not clearly apparent. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 generations before they descend into the 49th level of tumah, of impurity, and then it becomes glaringly clear there is no fear of God in this place. It is a den of scum and villainy, and so much worse. They broadcast it on TV and show it in movie theaters. For anyone that's still here, or that watches this later, there's links in the description to Rabbi Reuben's lectures, and ideally you should watch off YouTube. Download the Bezrat Hashem app, or watch on BH Torah or BH.live. The app is the best, though, if you got a phone or whatever. But with the BH Torah, all you need is a web browser, just bhtorah.org. And you can watch all the lectures from Rabbi Reuben's YouTube channel for free, without all the garbage, without no ads and no distractions of like, oh, let me see what the comment section says. Baruch Hashem, I have been using the app for about 8 months now, or something like that, or give or take 6 or 8 months. And the only time I go on YouTube is to like and share videos. And I try to stay far away from the comment section. I made a mistake a while back. try to give some friendly advice to somebody. Just here, I know it probably sounds like super abusive and horrible, but if you put aside my my grating demeanor of how I come across, it just might save your soul if you let it. I hope it does. That's one thing I learned after a short time is like once you accept the truth into your heart and start learning, you realize that man, the judgment is vast and deep, and there's so much where a person is would be obligated to bring a chatat, a sin offering, in addition to their guilt offerings and their process of teshuvah, of repenting and returning to God and fixing the damage that we've done as much as humanly possible with God's help. There's at first it kind of like once you accept the truth and you start learning, there's a certain point where it's like it tends to hit people. It certainly hit me like a ton of bricks. I was just God have mercy on us all. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. I did not know. Man, there's like once you start to get to that point, then you realize you only know like a little tiny bit, and you realize how horribly that you screwed up. And it can get kind of overwhelming. Part of that's Yetzirah. Part of that is Satan trying to twist everything good in the world to his advantage to get us to fail. It's also to push us closer to God. We have to beg for God's help constantly. Now, if we're honest and we try, He will help us. He will help us so much. It's getting late and it's cold. Unless there's someone here that's gonna say something or need an answer for something that I can, maybe be a vessel to give over. I am maybe call it quits soon. I need to do a lot of streams this week. There's so much to talk about. Like I can't talk about everything all at once. It's just too much, too long. Especially because it's cold out here. Well, I'm going to get going, guys. I hope you guys have lectures picked out to watch this week. There's not going to be anything new until at least next week. Maybe longer, I'm not sure. Hopefully you have a series that you're working through already. Just pick up where you left off. Like a comment says, no Torah portion for the Goyim. So learn some Musar. Go over Pirkei Avot Torah. Or maybe go over some old stuff. It's good to refresh our memory, so we don't forget, or at least put forth the effort. Okay. May God grant us all the strength, all the assistance,